The marble walls of the Senate hearing room seemed to shimmer under the glare of the television lights. Journalists lined the back wall, pens poised, ready to capture every heated exchange. The atmosphere was thick, part politics, part theater. At the long, polished desk sat Senator Josh Hawley, shoulders squared, eyes flashing with the smug confidence of a man certain he had the upper hand. Across from him, Representative Jasmine Crockett adjusted her papers calmly, her gaze steady but fiery. The hearing had already been going on for hours. The topic: oversight of corporate fraud, political accountability, and the question of who in Washington was truly qualified to speak on behalf of the people. Representative Crockett, Hawley's voice sliced through the murmurs in the chamber, before we even begin debating substance, I must ask, what exactly are your qualifications? What experience do you have beyond loud soundbites on cable news? The room stiffened. Cameras zoomed in. A few senators leaned forward in anticipation. Jasmine did not flinch. She had faced worse: hecklers at rallies, dismissive pundits on television, even members of her own party who underestimated her resolve. But Hawley's tone was different. It dripped with ridicule, as though she were a student caught in the wrong classroom. Senator Hawley, Jasmine began, her voice cool, is this a hearing on policy or a hearing on me? Hawley smirked, tapping his pen against the desk. It's both, Representative. Because before one can credibly debate policy, one must show they actually understand it. And frankly, I don't see how you do. Gasps rustled through the gallery. Some reporters scribbled furiously, their headlines already forming: Hawley questions Crockett's credentials. But Jasmine leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing, her voice lowering just enough to force everyone to lean in. Senator, if you want to talk about understanding policy, let's talk facts. I didn't inherit my seat. I earned it. I didn't rely on Ivy League privilege. I built my career in courtrooms, defending the Constitution against those who sought to trample it. The audience perked up. She shuffled her papers, pulling out a well-worn folder. Before coming to Congress, I was a civil rights attorney. I fought against voter suppression. I defended the voiceless. My credentials, as you mockingly put it, were written in the lives of the people I've protected. Can you say the same, Senator? Hawley stiffened, but his smirk lingered. Protecting the voiceless, or exploiting them for your own career? Because from where I sit, Representative Crockett, your resume looks like a political activist's, not a policymaker's. That barb landed. Several onlookers chuckled nervously. But Jasmine didn't waver. Instead, she opened the folder and began reading. Shall I remind you of the cases of 1. The corporations have held accountable. The families who kept their homes because I stood between them and predatory lenders. Or perhaps we can talk about my voting record in Congress, which, unlike some in this chamber, shows a consistent defense of working families rather than the wealthy elite. The smirk faded. Reporters' fingers flew across keyboards. Jasmine's calm, deliberate dismantling of Hawley's insult was quickly becoming the highlight of the day. Hawley leaned back, folding his arms. You love to grandstand, don't you, Representative? But people don't want fiery speeches, they want solutions. Jasmine shot back, and solutions come from knowledge, Senator. Which I have. The real question is, why are you so afraid of my voice being heard in this chamber? The room erupted in murmurs. Some senators shifted uncomfortably. Hawley's face hardened. You think you can win arguments with passion, but passion doesn't equal expertise, he snapped. Neither does arrogance, Jasmine countered, her voice sharp as glass. And I'll take passion rooted in lived experience over hollow elitism any day. The exchange was electric. Twitter feeds buzzed. Hashtags trended. And in that moment, it was clear, Jasmine Crockett wasn't just defending her credentials, she was rewriting the definition of what it meant to have them. The moderator finally intervened, tapping the gavel. Order, please. We will proceed with policy questions. But the damage, or perhaps the triumph, had already been done. Cameras caught Jasmine's subtle smile, the smile of a woman who knew she had not only defended herself but had drawn blood in the process. And Josh Hawley, usually so quick with biting retorts, sat back, stone-faced, as though he hadn't expected his ridicule to boomerang back at him with such force. The gavel's echo still lingered as the moderator tried to steady the room. Reporters exchanged glances. This wasn't just another political sparring match. It was a full-scale clash of credibility, and the outcome could ripple far beyond the hearing chamber. Senator Hawley leaned forward again, his jaw tight. All right then, Representative Crockett. Let's put your so-called expertise to the test. Explain to me, if you can, how your background qualifies you to weigh in on regulatory reform. Because to me, it sounds like you're just another partisan voice looking for headlines. Jasmine tilted her head slightly, as if amused. She didn't rush. She let the silence stretch, making him wait. Finally, she spoke. Senator, let's talk about regulatory reform. You mean the same regulations your donors are constantly trying to water down? The ones designed to protect workers, consumers, and the environment. Hawley stiffened. Cameras zoomed closer. See, when I practiced law, Jasmine continued, sliding a document across the table, I represented clients against corporations that you and your colleagues refused to regulate. Take, for example, the case of Texas versus Dominion Housing, where my legal team successfully prevented an apartment complex from illegally evicting over 200 low-income families. That wasn't a headline, it was justice. That was real people being protected from powerful interests. Reporters scrambled to verify the case. Within seconds, tweets were flying. Crockett cites major housing rights case against corporate landlords. Hawley cleared his throat, trying to pivot. Well, housing is one thing. But what about economic policy? Do you even understand how regulatory overreach kills jobs in America? Jasmine smiled faintly. Oh, Senator, I understand jobs very well. In fact, let's look at your record. She held up another document, this one stamped from the Congressional Budget Office. Last year, you voted against a bill that would have provided tax credits to small businesses for hiring veterans. That was 45,000 potential jobs lost, thanks to you. Meanwhile, I co-sponsored legislation that secured federal funding for workforce training in renewable energy, creating opportunities in my district and across the country. The room broke into whispers. Even a few senators on Hawley's side looked uncomfortable. Senator, Jasmine pressed, you mock my credentials, but facts don't lie. You've talked about jobs. I've created them. You've ridiculed working-class families. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with them in courtrooms and on the House floor. For the first time, Hawley's smirk faltered into something else, something closer to irritation. He jabbed a finger in her direction. Don't lecture me, Representative. You think fiery rhetoric makes you smart. You think it makes you effective. All it does is prove that you're more interested in playing to the cameras than serving the American people. Jasmine's expression sharpened. She leaned forward, locking eyes with him. Playing to the cameras. Senator, if you're worried about performance, maybe you should reflect on January 6th, when you were caught on video pumping your fist at a mob threatening our democracy. That wasn't serving the American people, that was serving yourself. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The moderator banged the gavel. Order. Order in this hearing. Hawley's face flushed red. His lips pressed into a thin line, but before he could reply, Jasmine's voice rose, crisp and unwavering. You question my credentials. Let me give them to you, Senator, plain and simple. Attorney. Years in court, fighting for civil rights. Legislator. A voting record that defends veterans, small businesses, and working families. Public servant. A history of standing with the people when powerful interests, including politicians like you, turned their backs. She paused, letting her words sink in. My credentials aren't a line on a resume, Senator. They're the faces of people who can pay their rent today because I fought for them. They're the families who didn't lose their homes to predatory lenders. They're the students who got federal aid because I wrote it into law. And if that isn't enough for you, then maybe the problem isn't my credentials. Maybe the problem is your inability to recognize what true public service looks like. The room erupted, not in chaos, but in applause. Even the moderator, struggling to maintain order, couldn't hide a small, reluctant smile. Hawley sat frozen. For once, he had no quick retort, no mocking quip. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his eyes darting to the cameras that were no doubt capturing his silence for millions of viewers. Jasmine straightened her papers and leaned back, composed and calm. The storm she had unleashed now hung over the chamber, and it was clear who had come out on top. As the hearing resumed with other senators asking policy questions, the buzz outside the chamber grew louder. News outlets were already running breaking headlines. Crockett schools Hawley in fiery exchange on credentials. Jasmine Crockett turns Hawley's mockery into a lesson in public service. Senator Hawley silenced after Crockett's crushing rebuttal. By the end of the day, clips of the exchange would dominate social media. Hashtags like #FactsWin and #Crockett vs Hawley would trend worldwide. And for Jasmine Crockett, it wasn't just a personal victory. It was a defining moment, a moment where facts triumphed over ridicule, and where the voice of a woman once underestimated became the voice the nation could not ignore.